How's it going, guys? My name is Stone, and welcome to these reviews, or welcome back if it ain't your first time here. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of those albums that introduced me to the magical world of spiritual jazz, and that is clearly Pharoah Sanders' Karma, released in 1969. This was the third album led by Sanders and features Leon Thomas as a vocalist as well as a songwriter, helping Sanders write the two songs on this album. The first one being, of course, 32 minutes long, while the second only being 5 minutes. Now, Karma is considered to be a pioneering work in the realm of spiritual jazz, and as some people see it as some sort of a sequel to John Coltrane's "A Love Supreme," which I could kind of see with the bass line. From what I understand, it's kind of like paying homage to John Coltrane, which I can't remember if he died either in '65 or '67, but either way, it was pretty recent. So I could say why this is a fitting tribute to John Coltrane, especially what he was doing during the last few albums like Ascension and Sunship, which I know Sunship wouldn't come out till later, but anywho, this has become Sanders' most popular and critically acclaimed album over the years. And though I haven't heard most of his material yet, I can't help but find this album to be a game changer in my musical interests, as it's definitely my favorite album by him so far. The kind of atmosphere Sanders creates on this record is honestly nothing like anything I've ever heard. Uh, if you watched my video like 2 or 3 videos ago, I did a video talking about 11 albums that blew my socks off. Pretend I had a pair of socks there. And this was the last one on that list because this was definitely the most recent thing to really just like leave me stunned when I was listening to it. And I remember, I'll go into real quick how I heard of Sanders. Basically, again, through Rate Your Music. Looked up top albums of 1969, the highest rated, and I saw this was number 3. And just based off the cover and the description, it being like free jazz, spiritual jazz, I was like, okay, I might dig this. And I read some of the comments, and people really hyped this album up. So I was kind of nervous to go into it, thinking, is this going to be really what I want? Are the 5-star ratings really what they say they are? And honestly, no doubt in my mind, this is a 5-star album. Even though it's kind of a weird track listing with the only just being 2 songs, the 2 songs in here are absolutely perfect, and it just oozes with spirituality and passion. And although, like I said, this album can have its difficult moments, Karma really gives the listener a chance to unveil one sense of spiritual awareness, whether they believe in a particular religion or not. This album really needs no introduction, yet here I am trying my best to give it a proper one. If you're familiar with this album, you just know. You already know how grand and magical it is. But here I'm going to try to summarize my thoughts about it because I've wanted to talk about this album for a while, and now that I have it on vinyl, it's like, come on, Stone, now's your time. So side 1 consists of the first 20 minutes of the track, The Creator Has a Master Plan, which is basically the magnum opus of this album. It immediately pulls you in with its roaring saxophone playing and its angelic use of percussion, flutes, and piano. This establishes a sense of divine beauty within the first 2 minutes of the track, before moving into that main bass riff, which again sounds like an homage to part 1 of A Love Supreme. And for the next 5 minutes, we have Sanders and the rest of the lineup effortlessly setting up a mood that I'd say is simply transcendent. Sanders also uses this time to display some of his nasty saxophone skills, nasty in a good way, of course, but still kind of holding back, not trying to give too much away yet, because, it's still a long journey. We're only 5 minutes in. And for the next 5 minutes, we have Sanders and the rest of the lineup effortlessly, I already said this, again, simply transcendent, I don't know. It's a lot of notes, it's tough. I really want to make sure I got everything well said for this album, but it isn't until the 7-minute mark that, for me, life begins to make more sense. At least when I first heard this song, and I got to the 7-minute mark, I was just like, wow, this is incredible. And really, like I said, it's really when Leon Thomas comes in at the 7.5-minute mark with those gorgeous vocals, only elevating this track further into the heavens more than it already is. And it's really at this point of the song that, again, everything just seems to fall into place perfectly, more so than one would anticipate when they first hear it. I know that's how it was for me. Like, first 5 minutes, I was already blown away, but then it just kept getting better and better. I only wish the vocals, or the lyrics, I guess, lasted a bit longer, but either way, they do a fantastic job at developing the optimistic and uplifting message this song conveys. At the 11-minute mark, we return to an atmosphere similar to the beginning of the song, which carries a short yet profound change to the music before returning back to that main melody. After 2 minutes of that little change up, we are able to admire a wonderful solo by the main man himself, which slowly morphs into something wild and intense. This intensity begins to evolve more and more during the last 5 minutes of side one and holds some of my favorite moments, or probably, yeah, definitely one of my highlights on the album. That moment being from the 15.5 minute mark onward, where the tempo picks up drastically and becomes a bit nightmarish before we finally get to Thomas's amazing yodeling skills, which is something I never thought would pair well with jazz until hearing this record. And just the way he soars with those vocals, I would hate to try to replicate it, but he's like, yeah, 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 but like in a yodeling way. Just that vocal melody he has over all this percussion, flute, sax, it's just the ultimate cacophony. It's just so, I can't explain it. Like, I'm not that much of a spiritual dude, but man, I feel some spirit in me whenever I'm listening to this music. And just live Pharoah Sanders, for that matter. All this, like I said, last 15 minutes or last 5 minutes of this side one just keeps going, and it really brings side one to a perfect ending, which, with everything fading on such a chaotic but wildly beautiful note. Now, to compare side one to side two, I do feel like side one is clearly the stronger one just because it's the first 20 minutes of an epic. As for side two, it's kind of clunky because, you know, it picks up where side one left off, and then you get that extra track at the end. And I guess one gripe I'll kind of bring up now, I was going to save it for later, but I feel like, on vinyl at least, when you listen to side two, I feel like it jumps way too quickly into Light of Love, or like, you know, the chaotic section, which maybe that was intended. I just feel like it would have been better off if they had to creep up a little more, much like the Mountain Jam of, by, you know, Allman Brothers Band, Eat a Peach. Obviously, these are two different genres we're talking about here, but that's just one little gripe I have. I don't want to sound like, fuck, I'm like complaining about this record, because I still love it. And again, when I'm listening to it on like Spotify or CD or something, it doesn't affect it at all. But yeah, just when you think the song can't get any more difficult, side two begins with the passage Light of Love, which is basically the last 14 minutes of The Creator Has a Master Plan. Not sure why they gave it a different title, but I'll go with it. It immediately throws you back into the madness that they left off on side one. Though it may come off as very aggressive for those who are not familiar or, I guess, enjoy free jazz, it only gets more insane over the next 10 minutes. The track then morphs into a kind of sea storm of music, which elevates that nightmarish feeling from before, but turns into something catastrophic, in my opinion. This is where Sanders demonstrates some of his techniques that build his signature sound, which include a split reed technique over blowing, multiphonics. I'm just stating the stuff I looked up. I am definitely not a saxophone player, but I'm definitely trying these methods to sound like Saxy Sanders, you know? And yeah, all these kind of things contribute to his screeching sound that I guess he's very much known for, so that's cool, you know? Big fan of that screech. Over this 10-minute period, however, Sanders is able to lead the band back into this hellish soundscape, into an atmosphere that made the track so angelic on side one. It isn't until we arrive at the last 4 minutes of the track that everything seems to come back full circle, and we are given that grand conclusion that repeats that wonderful verse before fading out into another plane of existence. Whoa. And yeah, in all honesty, this could have been the only track on the album, much like his album Black Unity. And it still would have been, well, still, in my opinion, or my guess, would have received all the fame and glory that it deserves. The fact that they added a second song to this album could be considered a risky move, as it could have taken away from the magic of this magnum opus. Fortunately for us, this is not the case here on Karma, in my opinion at least, as we are given a track that I don't think, well, it couldn't have followed up The Creator Has a Master Plan better. And basically that track, you already know, is Colors, a song that I absolutely love. And again, like I said, when I first listened to this album, I was kind of nervous to hear Colors, just because I was like, damn, like, are you going to kill the vibe, or are you going to only survive or live up to the standard? Because I was kind of, didn't expect it to be as good, if not maybe even a little better than The Creator Has a Master Plan, which I don't think it's better, but I do feel like, you know, with it being 5 minutes, it's much easier to enjoy and show to someone who maybe doesn't have 32 minutes on their hands. But yeah, I find the atmosphere of the track Colors to be perfectly fitting with the track before it, as it basically acts like a condensed version of Karma's overall illustration. Though this track, you could argue, has a slightly darker tone to it, at least with the actual musicianship, the music is nothing short of remarkable, with the vocals playing as big of a role as the rest of the band. And again, the lyrics are very uplifting here, especially with the phrase that I really captured my attention was, people think that life is misery, but in him, there is no mystery. Sorry for that butcher, Leon, but either way, I feel like the mood this song is able to create is just as powerful as the first track on the album, even though it is, like I said, much more condensed. Had it been longer, like maybe 20, 15 minutes, I could see it being maybe better than Creator Has a Master Plan, but I feel like it's unfair to judge that because they're obviously way different in times, or, you know, in length. So yeah, I feel like you could argue it doesn't fit on this album and it wasn't needed. I think it provides a gorgeous way to close out this album, you know? And I'd say a surprisingly good way to close this album out. You would have thought maybe put Colors in front of this song, but yeah, no, it works. It works. So yeah, this album, that's basically my review. Only those two songs, you know? Crazy good album. Beautiful, you know? It's just, you bring a tear to a man's eye. Not me though, but it's alright if it does, you know? And it's alright if it happens to you. I'll show off this little hype sticker. I actually got a recent pressing from Discogs, from Acoustic Sounds. Pretty nice. I mean, I'll just flex it real quick, but then I can read it. Yeah, 180 gram vinyl, original master tapes, and yeah, show off, maybe not the vinyl right now because Colors is playing, but the inner sleeve, you got another cool picture of Sanders, you got some lyrics, or at least kind of like words elaborating on the music, which I like. And yeah, apparently these songs were recorded 5 days apart from one another. The Creator Has a Master Plan recorded on February 14th, Valentine's Day. That's pretty interesting. I mean, it's a very, you could say, a lovey-dovey song, at least for the creator. So yeah, it's basically my little shindig about this album. I absolutely love it. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts about it. And if you don't know it, please check it out, because I feel like it's one of this kind of album that you can really enjoy. Even if you're not a fan of jazz, you can at least, I imagine, have appreciation for it, you know? If you have great taste like me. So, thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Ta-ta, bye-bye.